So מתחיל עם ניגון. ניגון הזה זה... Said I teach in English. This is a nigun that the words are from Echa. Chazdei Hashem ki lo tamnu, ki lo chalu rachamav. The kindness of God that's never ending. For Hashem's rachamim never runs out.
One more time.
Chazdei Hashem ki lo tamnu, so ki lo tamu, ki lo chalu rachamav. Chalu with a kaf, ki lo chalu. Chazdei Hashem ki lo tamnu, ki lo chalu rachamav. Chazdei Hashem ki lo tamnu, ki lo chalu rachamav. Chazdei Hashem ki lo tamnu.
No.
Hi,
Is this the
very comfortable. Chazdei Hashem ki lo tamnu. Yeah, it's a bit of an obstacle there, sorry. Ki lo chalu rachamav. Chazdei Hashem ki lo tamnu, ki lo chalu rachamav. Chazdei Hashem ki lo tamnu, ki lo chalu rachamav. Chazdei Hashem ki lo tamnu, ki lo chalu rachamav. Chazdei Hashem ki lo tamnu, ki lo chalu rachamav. Di dai dai di dai dai di dai dai ra ba ba da di dai dai. Di dai 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 di dai. Hi, welcome. What's your name?
Abigail.
Abigail.
I'm Ami. I'm
Yeah.
Judy's friend.
Okay. Welcome.
Yes, I'm from Canada.
Okay.
I'm here from
We're in Canada.
Montreal.
Nice. Welcome.
Thank you.
Is this thing going on? Great. Okay. So we are learning tonight. I was just telling guys before you walked in, we're learning from the Eish Kodesh that are in Piaseczna. Are you familiar?
I know about the Eish Kodesh. Yes. Okay. Yes, I do.
Okay. So we're going to be learning a piece from one of his drashot from Sefer Eish Kodesh that, although it's not, you didn't teach this during the time of the Ben HaMitzarim, the 3 weeks that we're in, what he talks about is very relevant. Say that about maybe half the drashot in this book anyway. But these ones in particular.
Actually, I was just in Warsaw.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. And there is an exhibit on the Onyx Shabbat.
Wow. And it's like
I
in
saw
the
it.
Jewish Archives or something?
The Jewish Archives, Jewish Historical Institute.
Did you see some of the writings there? Did they have the Rebbe's writings on
there's a
display?
lot of stuff. It's amazing.
Wow.
But I've never studied anything directly, so I'm really excited.
So we're going to study it directly tonight.
Yes. Yes.
Before we get into this piece, so I'm going to speak outside for a minute, and then we'll go into the books here. Just to give some context of the time of year we're in, we tend to think of or experience things maybe like very disjointedly. You know, it's like, oh, it was Shavuot a couple weeks ago, a month ago, I don't know. Then there's this fast day, Yeshivat Tammuz, and it's the summer, but then there's a couple weeks in the summer where we kind of have to think about everything. And then there's another fast day, Tisha B'Av. And we can understand how Yeshivat Tammuz and Tisha B'Av are related. Right? Yeshivat Tammuz is the day that commemorates the invasion of Yerushalayim, the walls of the city being broken through twice, and a bunch of other kind of catastrophic events. Okay? And Tisha B'Av is obviously the Churban, is the temples being destroyed. We can see how this is like a unit. And these 3 weeks of 21 days, 22 days, and some of the Hasidic Sfarim, the Rebbe say that these days, these 21, 22 days of the year, have their parallel in the 22 days from Rosh Hashanah until Simchat Torah. From Rosh Hashanah to Simchat Torah. Okay, you have Aleph Tishrei, Rosh Hashanah. 10 days later is Yom Kippur. 4 days later, 5 days later, you have Sukkot, which lasts 8 days. So you have basically the same amount of time of the Yamim Noraim.
Like 3 weeks.
The Chagim is about 3 weeks. Yeah, and so for example, I think I saw this from Pichas Koritzer, that to the degree to which we mourn Yerushalayim during this time of year, to the degree to which we connect to the brokenness of these 3 weeks, so we find the joy in those 3 weeks of Tishrei, of Rosh Hashanah, of Yom Kippur, of Sukkot, and it's not just a acute kind of connection, because really Shivasa Tammuz is the beginning of the Yomim Noraim.
Shivasa Tammuz?
The Shivasa Tammuz is the beginning of the Yomim Noraim, and I'll tell you why. Okay. Because besides for the breaking of the walls of Yerushalayim, Chazal say that Shivasa Tammuz is the day that Moshe came down from the mountain and saw Am Yisrael dancing around the golden calf and shattered the Luchot, shattered the Torah on the ground. So before there's even a discussion of Yerushalayim being invaded and Beit HaMikdash and all that, there's a prior event. There's a prior event of breakage, of rupture, at a place that was the highest, holiest point in our history, a place of rupture there. And Yom Kippur, the origin of Yom Kippur, before we have a Beit HaMikdash, before we have a process of Tahara and Kapara and Kohen and Korbanot and all these things, Yom Kippur is the day that Moshe, right after he broke the Luchot, he went up to the mountain for 40 days, and he went up to the mountain for another 40 days, right? Do the math. Shivasar Tammuz, Av, Elul. Is it another 40 days? The three units of 40 days, I think, till they came down. Moshe came down on Yom Kippur with the new Luchot, with the second Luchot. So what I'm saying is, from the beginning point of Shivasa Tammuz until Yom Kippur, the 10th day of Tishrei, we have the Torah being shattered and the Torah being rebuilt. And historically, generations later, okay, there's more in the Midbar, right? Because this is also a year after that happened in the Midbar. Shiva Asar Tammuz, well, no, it's Rosh Chodesh Tammuz is when the Meraglim, when the spies were sent to check out the land of Israel. And it was during this time of year that they were doing their scouting mission. And they were seeing what they were seeing and experiencing what they were experiencing. And they came back on Tisha B'Av and gave their report. And Bnei Israel basically had their dream deferred at that moment, that the whole process of entering the land was there was a breakdown of that direction in that moment. It was then pushed off for 40 years. So again, all of this is before we get to Churban, before we get to the Beit Mikdash. Then with the Beit Mikdash, we have this same time of year as being a time of rupture, of breakdown. Okay, and what we walk through during this time of year and all the way into Tishrei is these times of a low point where we connect to moments of crisis and loss, an experience of loss. When we come out of Tisha B'Av, we already start moving into a time of nechama, of being comforted, of the beginning of nechama. Besides for being comforted, it also means redirection. The word nacham means to be directed. So there's sort of a new path that we start charting from that point, and that leads directly into the month of Elul, which is the month of Rachamim, which is the month of Tshuva, which leads into Rosh Hashanah, which is the time of Malchut, of rebuilding a world that's godly, which leads us to Yom Kippur, which is a time of being, reunited with God in a full acceptance and atonement, which leads into Sukkot, which is a time of celebration and joy. So there's a whole swing, a whole trajectory that's going to take us to Simchat Torah. We're going to get to Simchat Torah. Okay, we're going to be dancing with the Torah. But to get there, we have to start in the place of breaking. We start in the place of breaking. To begin to enter and to walk towards a new rebuilding of the world, we start in the place where the world is broken. So I'm saying all this because part of what, as deep as the mourning is during this time, it's also the beginning place where we find hope for the future. It's a beginning place where we begin to discover where we need to go from here. And maybe we're not even taking the first step yet in the direction, but we're beginning to feel both what has been lost and what we're yearning for, and the possibility to hope for something. Or in the words of Chazal, Kol hamitabel al Yerushalayim zoche lirot b'binyana, l'smoach b'binyana. That they're flip sides of the same experience. That the deeper we were able to connect to this absence, to this loss, so that actually is what opens the door for us to begin to search for and discover that new rebuilding. And if Rosh Hashanah is a time of rebuilding God's Malchut, the world being a kingdom, a palace, that's God's. So we first have to recognize all the places where the palace was lost. And that's where we are right now. That's what this time of year is. So the morning of this time, the low period of this time, it doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's not like we do this because Jews have to be sad at some point of the year. So we chose this time of year to be sad, and then we're going to be happy in that time of year. This is all part of one season. Yeah? You with me? And I'm saying that because it's also contextualizing, like, what's the purpose of going to the pain? Isn't the pain of the past enough to keep in the past? Right? Isn't the Sheva enough to have happened already? We have to re-enter it every year. We have to, and a lot of people even experience that. It's like, I have to make myself feel sad about something that I don't even know what it was. But here I am.
I saw some people are saying, why are we?
Right. So we say, look around Yerushalayim.
Tisha B'Av.
Right. Maybe we shouldn't be fasting anymore. Look around us.
Fasting anymore.
Right. So part of what I'm trying to just bring up to the surface here is that there's a, at least until it's so clear to all of us that the world is whole again. And all of us, I don't just mean us in the room here, but I mean, till the world is ready to really embrace each other and embrace a world that belongs to God, we have to continue to relate to the breakage in order to begin to rebuild something. Yeah, you don't even know where the tikkun is if you don't know where the shed is. So again, it's not in a vacuum, and it's connected to that vision of where we're going to be going from here. And for me, I'm bringing that up too because I feel like that contextualizes also our ability to relate to the pain and the loss, because it doesn't exist in the life, because it's part of because it's part of that. It's the beginning process of the rebuilding, is to have an honest look at what's missing.
It's very powerful what you're saying, because you just come from Hungary and Poland,
Wow.
and the total devastation that occurred there. And how do we connect to it and go past it? So,
really not clear or simple by any means, but it's a reality. We can't ignore it, right?
Exactly.
So this time of year is about not ignoring it.
Yeah. On the last fast day, I was in Munkacs.
Wow. Is your family Hungarian?
My family is Hungarian. My family is from Tokaj. And I was in Munkacs and Unva. And I mean, I don't have to tell you, the Munkacs Rebbe is from there. And the whole world was destroyed. Gone. Yeah.
So maybe we'll just start this just before we start learning. This is a tefillah that we're carrying, whether we say it or we don't say it. We're in a tefillah here for Yizkot Lismoch B'Binyana, to be part of the building of the world. Before we get to the Eish Kodesh, I want to read a small piece from the Tikkun Zohar that he doesn't quote, but I think is related to part of what we're going to see. So this is in Tikkun 11, in Tikkun Zohar. I'm just going to jump in the middle here. It's talking about that there are all these gates, all these heavenly gates that the world was created with, all these different ways to reach God. Okay? And goes on and says that now in exile, all the gates have been locked up. Like, what's exile? Exile is like you can't access goodness. You can't access holiness. You can't access God. It seems to be missing from the picture. All the gates are locked. And the Shekhinah is outside of her chamber. She's in exile. God's presence is not in its place. Yeah, on a simple level, the Beit HaMikdash is God's presence and it's God. And the Kadosh Baruch Hu, that other aspect of God, is also not at home. Not everything's displaced. That's exile. It's being displaced. All the angels whose job it is they're ones who are in charge of prayers, those conduits of prayer, they're also not in their place. We don't even know where to pray to. The prayers are like lost. So the prophet says that the angels are screaming, chutza, outside, outside, meaning we're all outside. Nobody's where they need to be. And the prayers have no place to enter into. This is what it means that all of the gates are locked. This is quoting something in the Gemara, Bava Metzia as well, that all the gates have been locked. All the gates of prayer, except but the gates of tears have never been locked. The gates of prayer were all closed, but the gates of tears were not locked. Relate manda aftachalon. Now, so that already the Gemara says. The Gemara says at the time of exile, all the gates of prayer are locked, but the gates of tears have never been. That's the Gemara. But now
this is very, very beautiful. Very, very beautiful.
It's a very poignant
very
image.
poignant. Yeah? I'm working on the story of Chazan, who was born in 1922, and who survived slave labor in Bergen-Belsen. And then, after liberation, comes to daven with his Rebbe, and he just published his memoir. He describes the davening and how at a certain point they just all start crying. You can't daven because he's crying. This was like immediately after the war, you can imagine.
Yeah. How can you go back to those tefillot? How can you go back to the same words?
It's like
So you might think that tears are a point of despair. Doesn't work. We just push the edge and there's not and a failure, so to speak. Right? But the Zohar is saying here, the tears are the gate, actually. The tears are a gate.
It's the beginning of the cleansing.
This is a gate. This is a gate that doesn't close. If all the other gates close, this is a gate that doesn't close. The Zohar goes on and says, "Manda aftach lo me'ilin shavim ad yete mare dedima." Oh, sorry, the late manda aftach. There's nobody who can open these gates, meaning those gates of prayer, until the master of tears. Mare dedima. The it marbe, about whom it says, "Vatiftach vatir'ehu et hayeled, v'hinei na'ar bocher." This is a pasuk from Sefer Shemot, when Moshe Rabbeinu, as a 3-month-old child, was put in a raft in the Nile and sent off. Yeah? Another story? No? Yeah, Moshe. He was sent out in a little raft. And Paro's daughter comes out to the shore, and she sees the Vatiftach, she opens it, Vatir'ehu et hayeled, and she beholds, she sees this child, V'hinei na'ar bocher, and it's a youth who's crying. Right? Who was Moshe? Moshe was the Redeemer. The image of the Redeemer is the one who's crying. The chamber, the heavenly chamber, can't be opened except by anyone other than him, the one who is the master of crying. V'da'ihu vatiftach. But this is why it says vatiftach. This is why it says she opens it. She opens it because the one who knows how to cry is the one who knows how to open the gates of heaven. Vatiftach di'itpatach hai heichela l'gabeh. That this chamber of tears, was opened for him, for the master of tears, for the crying child. And what is it that opened it? It was those tears. The next word, the Hebrew is okay?
Yes,
yeah?
Yes.
Then right immediately, she had mercy for him. So where do we get, so the Zohar is saying this is about God responding to the universe. Where does God's mercy pour out from? From the one who has the tears, who knows how to open the gates. V'od v'tiftach had Yisrael patchim b'tiyuvta b'pchia miyad v'tachmolav. Another explanation of this opening is that, so that's Moshe Rabbeinu, master of tears, but it's true too that whenever Am Yisrael open in tshuva, open themselves up to wanting to connect to God, bibchiyah, and they cry from that desire, miyad v'tachmolav, that also opens the gate of compassion. V'da'ihu bibchi yavo'u. And this is what it means when the prophet Jeremiah says, bibchi yavo'u. Jeremiah is talking about, at this point, the return from exile. And he says, you will come in tears. I'll bring you back in tears. Bizchut b'chia dilei yitkanshu min galuta. in the merit of his tears, they will be brought in from exile. Now, okay, that's it. Because there's a chamber of tears that there's no way to open it other than it. Now, I'll just say as a preface, and we're going to get in now to the Piaseczna, this language in the merit of his tears. So the Pirush here is not so clear, like whose tears are we talking about that ultimately open the pathway back to God. So the Ben Ish Chai, whose Pirush on the Tikkun Zohar, he seems to interpret this to be saying that the tears of tshuva of the Jewish people, the tears of Am Yisrael wanting to reconnect, arouse tears above. They arouse God's tears to open the gates. But our tears meet God's tears, and that's what the Gemara is saying. Bivchi yavo. You're going to come. I'm going to bring you back from redemption in tears. In God's saying, I will bring you back in redemption, crying. I will be crying. Okay? So I'm bringing this up because you're going to see that we get into this idea that the Rebbe brings in this drasha, and he brings another drasha later on here of there's a concept of God crying too. Concept of God crying. So we'll get there, but this was introductory. Okay? Let's take papers here. I'm not going to read through the whole drasha. We're going to probably skip around a little bit, okay? But because it's longer than we have time for. So this is from Parshat Mishpatim, which was Shabbat Parshat Shkalim of that year, 1942. He starts off quoting the verse, Ve'ela ha-mishpatim asher tasim lifnehem. These are the mishpatim, the laws, asher tasim lifnehem, that you should put before them. This is, okay, pasuk. We'll get to it later. It says in the Gemara Brachot, Amar Rabbi Yossi, Pam achat ha'iti mahalech b'derech. Rabbi Yossi says, one time I was walking along. For this part I'm actually just going to say it in English so we cover the text, okay? Rabbi Yossi says, I was walking and I entered into one of the chorva of Chorvot Yerushalayim, one of the destroyed places of the ruins of Yerushalayim. Yeah? There are ruins of Yerushalayim, and Rabbi Yossi says, I entered into one of these when I was on my way. I went there to pray. Eliyahu came. He stood by the doorway until I finished. When I finished praying, he said to me, Shalom Alecha Rebbe. And I said to him, Shalom Alecha Rebbe Mori, my teacher and my master. He said to me, my son, what voice did you hear in the room? In that room? What did you hear? And I said to him, I heard a bat kol, a heavenly voice. That sheminahemet kayona, it was humming, murmuring like a dove. And it was saying, Oy levanim sheba'avonoteim hechravti et beiti v'sarafti et eichali v'hidvitim levanam. Saying, Oy to my children, because of their sins I destroyed my house, I burned my chamber, and I exiled them among the nations. And Eliyahu responded to me, Rabbi Yossi says, and he said, Chayecha v'chaye roshecha, which is a lashon shvu'ah. It was a kind of an oath that Eliyahu was taking. Swear to you, he's saying. Not only at this moment is this what heaven is saying, but every single day, 3 times a day, this voice is going out into the world. Ostensibly, that means every time that we're gathering in prayer, this is what's being heard in heaven. Oy, that I built my home and exiled. Velozu bilvad, and not only, more than this, at the time when Am Yisrael gathers together in Batei Knesset, and shuls, and Batei Midrash, and places of learning, and they answer, Yehei Shmei Rabba Mevorach Le'olam U'mei Amayah, right? They're resounding, let God's name be great, forever and ever. Kadosh Baruch Hu Mina'anei Rosho. God nodding his head. V'omer ashrei hamelech shemekasim oto beveito. How happy for a king, how fortunate is the king who is praised in his home. Kach ma lo la'av shehigrad banav. How happy is the king who's praised in his home. What a terrible situation for a father who's exiled his own children. And how painful is it for the children who've been exiled from their father's table. Ayin Sham. This is the quote from the Gemara. Okay? So every time that Jews are gathering to pray, every time they're saying that God's name be great, God is responding with feeling the pain of exile, that pain of distance, displacement. So the Rebbe says, "Kfar diknachnu lama lo shama Rabbi Yossi bioti shitpaleh b'churva, alo gimel pamim bayom amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu." So he brought this in an earlier drasha. He brought this in a different drasha, the same Gemara, and he says, we already explained why is it that he only heard this when he's praying here. Eliyahu is telling Rabbi Yossi, every time anybody's praying, this voice is going out from heaven. Why do you only hear? Yes. So without going to that Torah and giving it full treatment, the Rebbe says, when you enter into the Churva of Yerushalayim, when you enter into the ruin of Yerushalayim, you hear the voice of God's pain. But you don't hear when you're comfortable, when things are just sort of misudar, when everything's kind of working. But when you touch the place of brokenness, then you hear the voice of brokenness. The Rebbe goes on, the person is suffering, the experience is, I'm the only one. Right? Pain by nature, it makes us feel ourselves acutely and isolated, right? So it says beyond that. He says, the feeling is all of my pain, even all of Am Yisrael's pain. God is ignoring our pain. That's the experience. Yeshayahu Navi says, in all of their pain, God has pain. In all of their suffering, God suffers. And in the Gemara it says, Bizman shadam yitzta'er shchina ma'omeret kalani miroshi, kalani mizroi. When a person is suffering, the Gemara says that the Shechina, God's presence, is saying, my head is overwhelmed with pain, my arm is overwhelmed with pain. That there's like a divine response to our suffering. But we don't suffer separate from God, says the Chachamim, say the prophets. And our holy book teach us that the pain of God over our pain is so much greater than our own pain. The Gemara, for example, I believe the Sanhedrin, the Gemara says when a parent sees their child in pain, it hurts the parent more. So that's the mashal that they bring to explain this, that when God is watching our suffering, the suffering is that much greater. But we don't feel that. Right? That's not what we intuitively feel, instinctively feel when we're suffering. So one possible explanation now, the Rebbe is saying, why is it that we nonetheless feel so separate from God? And suffering and pain. So we know that God is boundless, God is endless, infinite. And God's infinity makes God inconceivable. We can't grasp God. No musak. We have no concept. Really. So the truth is, in God's pain, that's a response to our pain, it's also infinite. So it also doesn't have a place. So it's not only that a human being could never handle or feel that magnitude of what he's calling the divine pain. That's the state of things. But even to be aware of God's pain. So it's one thing that we can't feel what God feels. But even to have an awareness of God's pain, of God's tsa'ar. And to hear that voice, I'm in such pain that I've kicked my kids out of the house. It's impossible for us to hear that also. It's impossible for us to even know it exists. It's completely beyond our limitations. There's something this is reminding me of, is that there's a story, I think it was from the Chernobyl Rebbe, Menachem Nachum in Chernobyl. He had some kind of vision of Chorvot of Yerushalayim, and a figure who was, maybe I'll tell you the parts of the story I remember. A vision of the ruins of Yerushalayim, and somebody like walking along the broken stones. And when he related this story to somebody, or again, I don't remember who the story is, but they said, that was the Baal Shem Tov you saw. It was the Baal Shem Tov. What I get from that story is that maybe there are some people who do enter into that realm. You know, Rabbi Yossi, we're about to say, Rabbi Yossi actually was able to access it in some very, very small way.
What realm?
That realm of Tza'aro Shel Kadosh Baruch Hu.
Are you talking about the Piaseczna realm?
We'll see.
He was,
I think I think if we read this, then it's clear.
It's clear that he was
feeling that on whatever level that is.
You have to feel that.
We'll see him speak about it, okay? And it was only when Rabbi Yossi was able to enter into that ruined place of Yerushalayim, there was less of himself taking up the space when he walked in. Yeah, he walked in there and he was there was less of a sense of self kind of standing in that place. He was more transparent in that place. V'nechrav yoter, and he himself became more destroyed. B'vchinat hatzimtzum ugvul shelo. Oh, sorry. Nechrav yoter b'vchinat hatzimtzum ugvul shelo. It's a beautiful way that Rebbe says it. He walked in the Chorvot Yerushalayim, and it shattered his own limitations too. He walked into a place that was shattered, and his limits became shattered. His gvul was nechrav. His own tzimtzum, his own smallness was broken.
He experienced the immensity.
The immensity, yeah, the enormity of it. Shama mikolo shakadosh baruch hu. It was only in that place that he could hear the echo of God's voice. And the truth is, he only heard a little bit, the tip of the iceberg he heard. He heard just this murmuring of an echo of a voice like a dove. But Yirmiyahu Navi is saying that God is roaring like a lion over his house. But what did Rabbi Yossi hear? A dove. That he heard some far distant echo of a roar. Right, what the Rebbe is saying here is the degree of what it means, like on one level, kind of on the symbolic level that of the Lashon of Chazal, that God has pain over. But I think on an experiential level, he's also talking about that God cares. Right, when we suffer, we feel uncared for, we feel abandoned, and the Rebbe is saying we're incapable of truly feeling that empathy from God because it's so enormous. It's so enormous that we can't access it. And he gives an example of a story here of somebody who is able to kind of feel enough of that churban that he also was open to something else from it. He was open to something. And again, even that was a whisper of a whisper, it was an echo of what was going on with God in that. And this is the same reason that the world is even able to exist. That the world is omed al omdo v'lo nechrav mitzaro shel Kadosh Baruch Hu. If God's Tsar that we're talking about here was truly unleashed on the world wouldn't be able to withstand it. The whole world would just be washed up. That happened. The Torah tells us a story, not so dissimilar to that, right? The Torah tells us a story of a Mabul, where God was so distraught over the state of the world that he flooded the world. Yeah? So we're saying that God's withholding himself in this great pain is actually allowing the world to keep going on. When Am Yisrael is suffering, when the house is destroyed, why can the world keep going on? Because God's anguish is not entering. It's being kept apart. So perhaps this is what's explained in the Midrash Eicha Rabbah. This Midrash on Megillat Eicha is what we read on Tisha B'Av, the Megillah that speaks of the destruction. So the Midrash on Eicha says, "Be'ota sha'a," right at the time of the destruction, "Nichnesu oivim la'eicha v'sarfu." The enemy forces entered the chamber and burnt it. V'kevan shenisraf amar Kadosh Baruch Hu, Shuv eini moshav ba'aretz. God saw the Beit HaMikdash burn and said, I have no place to live anymore on earth. Esnalek shchinati mimena ve'e'eleh limchoni harishon. I'm going to remove my presence from the world and ascend to my place I was before. I built a Beit HaMikdash. I brought my presence to earth, to the world, to interact with people in an intimate way. And that house has been destroyed. I'm going to go back to where I came from. God was crying in that moment. Oili, ma asiti. What did I do? Yisrael. I brought my presence to dwell below for the sake of Am Yisrael. And now that they sinned, I'm going to have to go back to where I was before? Chas v'chalila. God forbid. The whole world's going to laugh at me. What, I'm going to become the joke. Look, even God couldn't figure out how to stick around. God gave himself to his people, and then God was crying. This was what God was crying over. At that time, Metatron, the archangel, shows up. And fell on his face. Master of the universe, let me cry, and you don't cry. Amarlo, God responds, if you don't allow me to cry now, I'm going to go to a place where you have no permission to enter into, and I'll cry over there. It says in Yirmiyahu, and if you don't hear it, my soul is crying in the hidden places. Yirmiyahu is speaking prophetically on behalf of God that you don't hear me crying, it's because I'm crying in a hidden place. And I can't cry before you because of your arrogance. But you should know that the tears are pouring everywhere.
That image very strong reminds me of Yosef going into the inner chamber to cry too. His brothers,
yeah.
He's very much that.
Yeah.
Also in the
Yes.
and the breaking.
Right. The truth is that the reconciliation between Yosef and his brothers, it didn't happen when they came and they said to him, when he said who he is. When he said Ani Yosef, they were halumi panav. They weren't able to approach him. But then he started crying. And he walked to each one of them and said, he cried on each one of them. And then they spoke. Then they were able to talk. The Yosef too was the tears that broke through.
He cried
in front of them. Yeah. Yeah. It opened up that door. So here the Midrash is saying something a little hard to understand, a little bizarre, also powerful, right? That God is crying over the state of the destruction. And this angel comes and says, God, you don't need to cry, let me cry instead. And God says, no. If you're not going to let me cry, I'm going to go cry in my hidden place. And again, the Rebbe is evoking here God crying somewhere where we can't hear it. Right? That tear, those tears, that pain of God's true care, the fact that God is with us in this experience, it's happening somewhere hidden from us. Uv'tana d'Eliyahu Rabba, and also in Tana d'Eliyahu, Ita, she'amar hamalach, genayhu lamelech she'yivkeh lifnei avadav. There's another kind of a similar, somewhat image of the angel saying, it's a disgrace for the king to pray in front of the servants. Yeah, it's like lo mechubad. It's beneath you. It's disgraceful for a king to cry in front of the servants. But then the Rebbe says, if the problem, so why was Metatron falling on his face, saying to God, let me cry, you don't cry? What was that about? So Rebbe says, we have another midrash that's saying it's disgraceful. It's like this, it's unbecoming of a king. But the Rebbe says, if it was just a question of it being disgraceful for God to cry before the servants, the malach could have left, and then God would not be crying before his servants, so to speak. But what God says is, I'm going to go somewhere else. God doesn't say, get out of here. God says, either let me cry or I'm going to go cry somewhere else. So the Rebbe is bringing up a question. What is going on with this angel wanting to cry, and with God saying, I'm going to go cry in a hidden place? Okay, this is the question. And what could it mean then about this disgrace? ולפי הנזכר לאל, מרמז שאמר המלאך, שגנאי הוא לפני עבדיו שיצטרך המלך. So, saying that, based on what we said before, it's not, the Midrash isn't just saying, oh, it's disgraceful for a master to cry before the servant. It's saying that for the servant, it's disgraceful that the king has to cry at all. Meaning, he'll flesh it out a little more, but what he said before about God's anguish, God's pain, that's being shared with our pain, and that's being experienced by God in some kind of detached way from our world, or some hidden way from our world. So the servants don't want that to be the case. We don't want God's tears, so to speak, to be distant from us. We don't want to be exiled in pain. This is the Ganai we feel about. For the servants, it's a disgraceful situation. If God has to cry, we can't hear God's cry. If we have to suffer separate from God. Let's read on and have a flesh out and let's see. Okay? But since, as we said, Sa'aro kivyachol, God's, so to speak, God's pain, God's suffering is boundless. V'gadol min ha'olam, it's greater than the world itself. There's no container for it. So not only does it not enter the world, but the world doesn't even flinch. It's like, what the Rebbe is speaking about here is the most terrible things can be happening. It's just moving like normal. It's just spinning. Sun, everything is just happening like normal.
Which is the biggest pain.
Which is the biggest pain. This is that experience of I'm in this alternate reality. So therefore the Malach said, no, God, I want to cry. I don't want you to be crying, God. Right? Because if you're crying, God, it means that the world's going to keep going like it is. Because nobody can handle your tears, God. Right? If you're going to cry, God, you're going to be doing it far away from our world. You're going to let the world go on, and you're going to hold back from showing us the full gravity of your pain. So let me cry instead of you. Because the Malachim, a Malach is a messenger. The Malachim are God's messengers. So the Malach was saying, God, let me be your messenger. We don't want you to keep your pain away from the world. We want the world to be affected by what's happening right now. We don't want you to have to distance yourself from your world to let them continue going on. We want there to be a disruption. We want the world to hear those tears. We'll read on and he'll speak it out a little more. Yeah? So the angel wanted to cry the tears of God into the world. This is how the Rebbe is explaining it. You don't cry, God. Let me cry instead, because the world needs to hear your tears. The world can't just continue to spin around and act like nothing is happening. This is the biggest pain. Yeah. Ulavi ba'olam, and let me be the messenger, your messenger of tears to the world. And then you won't have to cry anymore. If we hear, by the way, this is just a beautiful, this word it's a beautiful word that's used in some of the Sfarim to talk about God. Because we're talking about God first, especially here, we're talking in the most like raw human emotional ways, like in suffering, crying. It isn't, in books of theology, this isn't what's written. But we talk about God as the Kivyachol. We talk about God with the knowledge that everything we're speaking about is all I want to say it's all as if, meaning, but I think it's deeper than analogy, because analogy means that it's kind of purely symbolic. It's not purely symbolic. It's an approximation. It's not something we can say in such confined ways. But the truth that we need to express, we need to express. So we call it Hakivyachol, so to speak, as if. So to speak. כיוון שכבר יישמע בעולם קול בכייתו של הכביכול, ישמע העולם ויתפוצץ, the world will burst open if it were to actually hear those tears. Right? The angel saying, let me bring your tears to the world, so it bursts open. ניצוץ צערו כביכול ייכנס בעולם. Even just one spark of God's anguish will enter the world, וכל שונאיו ישרוף. All of the enemies of God will be burned by that. It's so powerful. Right at the splitting of the sea, Gemara says, God turned to the angels and said, my creatures drowning in the water, the Egyptians, are drowning in the water, and you're going to be singing praises at this moment? You can't sing praises when my creatures are drowning. There he says, so that's about the Egyptians drowning in the sea. When Am Yisrael is drowning in blood, is it possible that the world can go on? How is it impossible? How is it impossible? אני יבכה, ואז אתה לא תבכה, כי כבר לא תצטרך לבכות. Let me cry, says the angel. You won't have to cry anymore. You won't have to keep your tears far away from the world, because the world will be transformed by hearing even just a small bit of it.
I was right. The sad thing is that it just, I don't know if that happens actually. Enough that the world experiences the crying, the pain and the suffering.
For sure. I think the Rebbe is screaming, is the angel screaming here. I think the Rebbe is screaming. You asked, is he somebody who was in the Chorva? He was in the place of utter ruin, and he's screaming to God, let me be your messenger. Let me cry those tears. Let somebody cry those tears. Let the world hear not only that you're still around, but that you care, that you want it to be different. It's more than that. The Rebbe is saying, God, just overwhelm the world with yourself already. Just overwhelm the world already. It's enough. How can the world keep going on? We talked about the doors being locked, right? He's banging on the locked doors. Yeah? אבל כיוון שרצה השם לכפר על עוונות ישראל ולא היה אז עוד את הישועה, the Rebbe says that he's going back to Eicha now. Since God wanted to atone for all of the misdeeds of Am Yisrael, the time of the Khurban, time of Yerushalayim's destruction, and it was not yet time to bring redemption, right? There was some kind of necessity of destruction and of exile at that time. Lachen eshiv lo. So God said, no. I'm sorry, Metatron. I'm not going to send you as a messenger right now. I'm going to go to a place where you aren't able to enter, and there, that's where I will. At this moment, the pain is so great that the world won't be able to continue. And it's elevated beyond the world. ויגדיל צערו וכאבו כביכול עוד יותר, עד שגם מן המלאך יתעלה וגם הוא לא יראה. So he says it's not only that the pain of God, of the exile, was so great at that point that it had to be kept in the world, so that it still had more to go. It was going to go to a place where not only the world can't hear it, but the angels aren't going to be able to hear it either. Who's really going into exile? Yeah. This is some kind of wild image of God being in utter isolation. The Gemara Chagiga says, "Hamakom hazeh hu bevatei gavai." The Gemara says an amazing thing. The Gemara asks the question. I believe the language is. I can't remember the pasuk of sadness, but it says by God, "Oz v'chedva bimkomo." That in God's place, there's always strength and joy. How is it possible for God to have pain or sadness? God is, by definition, in a state of fullness, joy. So the Gemara says, "Hadavate barai, hadavate gavai." The oz v'chedva, the strength and joy, is in the outside chambers, but the sadness and tears are in the inner chambers. That's what the Gemara says. Okay? And if you just think about the world, the outer reality of the world, look, the grass is green, the sky is blue, the birds are chirping, we're all breathing. And how could that be at the same time of such anguish and destruction? But there's an outer reality and there's an inner reality. So the Gemara calls that place where God goes to cry all alone, Batei Gavai. This is the place, the inner room where God goes to pray. Uvamarsha ita shabate gavai hu b'chinat bina ayen sham. So the Maharsha, the commentator on the Gemara, he says that the two houses are the last Hey in God's name and the first Hey in God's name. Right? Yud and Hey and Vav and Hey, the name of God. That the outer house is the last letter Hey, and the inner house is the first letter Hey. This is whatever he gives a Kabbalistic explanation, but the Rebbe here is drawing on that. The first Hey is called Makom Bina, and the Zohar says that Bina Kaima l'Sheila v'lo l'Mimna. Bina is a place that you can ask about, can't truly know it. You can't conceive of it. You can only ask questions there. That inner chamber. That place where God cries, so to speak, that place where God feels sorrow and anguish and pain over the pain of the world, is a place that we can't conceive of. We can just ask a question. Shehu lamala me'asaga. It's inconceivable for us. But then he starts tzaro kivechol me'amalach and kol ha'olam. That's where God is hiding away always. From the angels, from the world. I'm checking the time. Yeah. I'm going to paraphrase a little bit, and I'm going to jump in it so you can. Yeah. So, in this next paragraph, the Rebbe says what it means that it's a batei gavai. The Gemara calls it a home that's hidden. It means that it's not completely distant from us, but like a house has walls around it that you can't see through, but it's still, everything is there, but just you can't see what's on the other side of it. So he says is to say that the Batei Gavai, to say that God is crying in that inner house, it means that it's here among us, we just can't see through it. It's not completely detached. And he goes on to say, and this is already, it's going to take, for us to see it inside would take too much, just go with me on this. In the previous drasha of the Sefer here, Pashat Yitro, the Rebbe explained that God gave us the Torah not as a hidden treasure, but as a house. God gave us the Torah not as something, so to speak, he's darshaning the words of the Gemara, that before we were given the Torah, it was this hidden treasure. It was in the storehouse way beyond the world, there was no access to it. But when God gives it to us as a house, as something that he is in his home to show us and let us know about, so it all of a sudden becomes something that we can access. You can enter into the house. It's not in a totally private, Fort Knox place. It's here among us, and we now need to be invited into the doors. Okay, so he what he does is he brings out this idea of a bayit, of God hiding in a bayit to God, which means that it's, so to speak, God is hiding inside of the house of the Torah. Right. He goes on and he brings this image. The Gemara says that when they used to have public fasts over times of famine, over lack of rain, over times of need, so they would all gather. The Gemara goes out and explains everything that's happening. They would gather out into the city, into the streets of the city, and they would bring out the Aron Kodesh. They bring out the place where the Torah scrolls sit into the city. The Zohar goes on and says they would even bring the Torah out itself. And he says it's because within the Torah, once the Torah has been given to us, so God's hidden house has been given to us too. Okay, once we have a Torah among us, so the Torah is able to convey to us. It gives us entry, an invitation into God's reality that we otherwise would never be able to touch. So he's saying that even that cry and that pain of God that's beyond the world, okay, now they're putting it back together and then we come back to the text. That pain of God that's so infinite that it can't fit into the world, it can't be wailing through the world because we just wash the world over, it can be communicated and conveyed to us through the Torah itself. The Torah can, right? Think about this. What is the Torah? The Torah is God's word written on paper, written in words. It's crazy to say that there's divine communication from the Ein Sof into these finite words and sentences that tell us things. Like, it's a bizarre thing to imagine. But the whole concept of what the Torah is that it brings something infinite and gives it in contained form of communication. It's a container. So, it's interesting to say, because the Aron is called the Teva, which is, it's literally a container. Right, Moshe. So God's pain also, that we were talking about, that's so infinite, that's bilti gvul, that we can't possibly pain or absorb or withstand, it can also be contained by the Torah in a way that we can access it. Okay, so this is kind of what's setting up the next piece of what he's going to say there. Lachem is in the middle of this page over here.
The next one.
Yeah, to the next page. Next page, no, next page. Group Samech Aleph.
Okay.
Shachar Group Samech Aleph. You see Lachem? Great. Lachem. Lachem alenu Yisrael le'echos b'Torah sheshanu Kadosh Baruch Hu. So he says, what can we possibly do? Again, remember what the Rebbe is saying. There is no remedy to this situation other than unleashing God's tears into the world. Right? That's what the Rebbe was saying. What can you possibly? What do we have to hope for? We have to hope that that the earth will hear God's voice of tsa'ar with us. Yeah, that God won't stay. It's beautiful. Lama ta'amod berachok. Something we talked about. Always saying this before. Why are you standing distant from us? Every time we want to close that distance. So he's saying something remarkable. He says by holding strongly to the Torah Sheshama Kadosh Baruch Hu, and entering into it, and bilimud, and bikiu mitzvotei elav yitbarach nichnasim. He's saying to people, learning Torah, doing mitzvot, we're not talking about fulfilling religious duties here. We're talking about entering into God's domain. Elav nichnasim. The infinite God is confined in Torah, and for us to access that, we need to enter into that house. We're coming. It's more than meeting. It's elav yitbarach nichnasim. It's entering into God. Those are his words. By coming to God's place, that is the only way to let that voice, that cry over our pain, to be revealed, and to evaporate, to wipe out evil like smoke. And we're just, I know, when we're all suffering, it's hard to learn. What, you're going to learn a Mishnah now? He's speaking very delicately. And there's people for whom there are certain mitzvot that are not so easy for them to perform. But the Jewish people were well trained in suffering. And we always somehow continued to live with the Torah among us. It's very hard to read, but his words, he says that the Torah wasn't given to us on conditions that we can fulfill it when it's good for us and we will abandon it. So he says that the Torah is the giving, that the Torah is the constant. That we have to still try to enter into it to the degree that we can. I want to say also, there's a piece of this that reading it just sounds like a musar, which is a kind of religious rebuke. But I read it also as like deep empowerment. He's saying to them, remember this whole image of all the gates are locked. Any truth that you could possibly hold on to has dissolved because of your pain, because of our pain. But the Rebbe is saying, you actually still have access to that. In some way, shape, or form. In a sense, he's also telling them that the Torah can be a life raft when you have no life raft. There can be something that holds a place of eternality in the face of total uncertainty.
That's a very, very important point. I was reading this book by Eliezer Berkowitz. It's called With God in Hell. And it just makes just exactly this point. That even in the darkest places, one can still hold on to. For me, these are the kinds of things that I could never say on my own. I could hear somebody who was there saying it. Yes, exactly. But that's what the Eliezer Berkowitz, he's a philosopher. Yeah. And he interviewed people who were in the camps and how they dealt with being in that horrible place and still holding on to their somehow their faith, their strength, their Torah. Keeping, like doing Yom Kippur in the camp, keeping kosher and just holding on to all of these things really helped them all survive and helped other people by their example survive also. You know, they were individuals who continued to follow Torah even in these darkest places, and they were an example to all the others.
I think on some level what he's saying also is you can grasp onto life even when your life is slipping away. Yes. Because the Torah somehow is alive beyond
and it's
beyond
not only
circumstance.
that, it's up to us. Nobody outside can control that or take it away from you.
I also just want to bring it. We saw this in the Yeshivat Simchat Shlomo. I already said, when you go back and read the book, read about yourself. Don't just read about other people. So I think read the B'nai Machshava Tova. Did you get to the end of it?
No.
Towards the end, the Rebbe says, "Okay, now you finished the book. Go back and read it again. But everything you read it about yourself. Don't read it about somebody else's experiences." Yeah. So here too, I think, we're not coming to compare anything, but the question here is, what does it look like for me to find connection with God in the places where I feel that I can't, where that connection can sit? What does it look like to be able to even conceive of finding a point of contact in the place of where we are in this time of year, of shever, of breakdown, the place where I look around me and the holding environment just doesn't seem to be here. The place where I look around and I see absence, or where I look inside and I experience abandonment. What is the Rebbe saying to us here? That God is in the mistarim in that place. That you're right, you cannot see God. That is the place where God hides from you. Where God hides in that house. I want to just, for the sake of timing, we're not doing the justice, okay? Just admitting. Just because I don't want to hold people past, I don't want to keep people too late, but let's, just trying to think how we can do this. I'm not going to try to read more.
I think it's good.
I think
we're
I'll say a few more words. I'm not going to read more here. He goes on and he says that when we talk about accessing Torah, we don't just mean holy books. We don't just mean Taryag Mitzvot. He goes and he builds this whole concept for us that the Aseret Dibrot, there's 10 Dibrot of Torah, there's 10 Ma'amarot of creation. There's a voice of God at Har Sinai, there's a voice of God that creates the world. And he says that they come from their one voice. Their one voice. And as they filter into our reality, we experience them differently. We see them in separation, but when we touch the root of them, where he says the root of creation is the same root of Torah. He talks about basically getting to a place of being able to look at the world and seeing Kol Hashem in everything. There's the birds chirping. And he even talks about it in terms of what he's experiencing and seeing around him. But there's such thing as saying there is no place outside of that place. There is no reality that doesn't come from that same place. And his ability, the pathway that he models here is, how do I choose life even when all I see is death? How do I choose hope when all I see is destruction? That this is the depth of what he means of the hold to the Torah, to enter the hidden room of our Christ. To be able to hear that there's a Kol Hashem even in the place of Churban. Right? Rabbi Yossi heard God's voice in the Churban of Yerushalayim. And I just want to bring it to our context so that it can be something that we can, can be palatable for us.
It's very interesting because he starts this book, Eliezer Berkowitz, said he was motivated to write this book because he was at a synagogue, and the rabbi was saying something about how can anyone believe in God after the Holocaust, after the Shoah. And it was the survivors themselves who got very angry with this person. He said, how can you say something like that? You were not there.
Yeah. It just also reminds me, I heard this, it was a beautiful interview with Eliezer, by Krista Tibbett, who she does the Unbelief podcast.
Krista, yeah.
So this is like a 10-minute kind of talk she has, not a full interview. But she asked him, she was talking to him, reading a piece that he wrote about when he lost the ability to pray. When he lost the ability to keep praying. And she asked him about it. At some point she said, well, but then how did you begin praying again? And he said, well, just the moment later, just like always. I mean, we always vacillate between like losing all hope and regaining a new sense of possibility. And but I want to come back to what our Torah here is, and to Tisha B'Av and to the Ben Tzarim. We have a book called Echa. We have a book of Torah, a book of Tanakh that is bemoaning and wailing over the impossible being possible. It's Echa. Yoshua, how is it possible? That's what the book is called. The book is called How Is This Possible? And that itself is a way for us to talk to God. That itself is a pathway towards looking at the world with open eyes and saying, God, how is this possible? How is this possible? Asking the question is, and sometimes, now on one level you say, oh, that what that is called despair and detachment from God. That's called absence of God. But what the Rebbe is teaching here is that what that is called is looking for God's tears. What that is called is asking the same question that the angels are asking. Is touching maybe even the outer walls or the doorway of that Bate Gavai, that inner house, where God is in there, keeping the tears away from the world. But we can bring some of that. I'll say it in a different way. That when we lose our ability to see God, what it means is that we have to begin to see God in a way that we never imagined possible. And I think that's not only the radical thing that comes out from these teachings, but what I was describing in the process from this time of year to Elul, to Tishrei, to Yom Kippur. How does this set the ground for tshuva? How does it set the ground for tshuva? Because for tshuva also, you need to have a renewed sense. You need to be able to see yourself in relationship to God and to Torah and Kedusha and whatever your life is about. You need to be able to see that with new eyes. And part of the process of transformation starts by losing your bearings. Losing our bearings here is not a time of losing God. It's a time of ultimately reorientation. But where we are in this place, the avoda of this time of year is to be asking those questions that maybe don't have an answer. Maybe don't have an answer that's in here. But to do that with a sense of like, this is how I relate to God. Now this is what my mitzvah is right now. This is what the Torah is saying. I'll tell you one more thing, and then we'll wrap up. According to the Kabbalistic Sfarim, this is rooted in the Sefer Yetzirah, that every month of the year has its own. There's 12 months, and God's name has 4 letters. And you can make 12 different combinations of those letters, backwards and forwards. So this month, Tammuz, is the month where God's name is written completely backwards. Completely backwards. Hey, Vav, hey. Completely backwards. And The Sefer Yetzirah goes on to explain that, I don't know if it's from there, it's probably not from Sefer Yetzirah, this next piece, that each one of these months and each permutation has like a pasuk in Tanakh that it's related to. And this month, the backwards name of God is learned from a sentence.
There's no pasuk.
Well, no, it's not written that way, but it's Sofei Tevot from the pasuk, or Rashi Tevot usually from Rashi Tevot in the pasuk. But this month, it's the Sofei Tevot, the last letter of 4 words that Haman says. Haman walked out of the palace. Yeah, Haman walked out of the palace, and Mordechai wouldn't bow to him, and he goes home and he starts talking about all of his honors and everything, and he goes home and he says, "V'chol ze einenu shoveli, ze einenu shoveli." The last letters of that pasuk. Ze, hey, einenu, vav, shaveh, hey, li, yud. God's name backwards. It's the backwards name of God. So, on many layers, we don't know anything what it means. But just think of, just take this piece of it. There's such thing as God's name being in reverse. Yeah, and you get what that means. It's like the only way I can call you is from the opposite of you. The only way I can see you right now is the opposite of what it's supposed to be. And that is the way. That is the revelation of this time. That is how revelation happens at this time. And it comes from those pathetic words slipped out from like that figure of evil. I'll tell you one thing about Haman saying those words. It's the one place in the whole story of Purim where Haman maybe has some kind of like real ideal he believes in. What's the real ideal? He's willing to say everything I have is worthless because there's something that I really want. Now, what he really wants is focus. No, what he really wants is some kind of like sense of honor, but he's willing to say everything that I'm striving after is meaningless. He's willing to say that. Now he means it in the way that he means it. He means it because Mordechai won't bow to him, right? But that there's such thing as some kind of like, think about how hidden that name is. Yeah, when we're talking about the God being in the mystery, how hidden is that? So, just to bring it back, and we're going to close here. But it's a time of hiddenness because it's a time of relating to what's absent, relating to what's broken, and letting that into ourselves, feeling that, seeing those places in our own life, the places that are places of absence, of korban. And what this Torah is teaching us, what the meaning of this month is teaching us, is that that's the hidden place. That's how God is being revealed by hiding. Yeah. God's presence in this world is sometimes we have to experience or access it only through not being able to really see it. And I think that on a deeper level, that when we allow ourselves to really feel into these days, and especially Tisha B'Av and moments within this time, and not just through like, okay, it's like a difficult time, we just have to get through it, but to actually take some time to sink into the feeling of these days, there's some kind of intimate, private connection that we're able to forge in our lives. Being able to kind of go into that isolation where God is crying, that batei goodbye, the innermost room, that's what it's called. Yeah, I mean, think about on Tisha B'Av, we don't talk, you don't greet each other, right? For the first time. What that also is protecting is a place where you're able to go inside. Where we're all able to be together completely inside. And it's in that inside place where God is in that place.
Thank you.
Thanks for letting me. It's always nice. I never know who's going to show up quickly. I know I'm going to mostly show up quickly. It's always nice.